Everyone, welcome. We are live here at Nevada Partners at the West Las Vegas Promise Neighborhoods podcast with a very special guest today, Mr. Congressman Stephen Horsford. So grateful that you joined us today. Quick introduction. Congressman Horsford serving, I believe, his second term in Congress. He's dedicated a life of public service, serving, I think, as much as, over a decade in the state legislature.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us
This
today.
is really exciting. I love it. The West Las Vegas podcast and Nevada Partners. This is wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And we've got Ella Garcia with Nevada Partners, project manager for affordable housing and wealth creation. And we got our very own Anthony Coleman, lit intern. Thank you for joining us.
Glad you're having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, Congressman, for your service and commitment to the community.
Thank you, Ella, and for all the wonderful work you and all of the members of the Nevada Partners team do each and every day. I'm so proud of the pillars and the work. And I know we just finished an education forum on justice, and obviously housing is a very big topic. So I'm really excited to be on your show.
Amazing, amazing. And folks, if you're watching now, I can see some of y'all are watching live. Drop us any comments if you have anything to share. But let's just kind of kick this off with the questions. And I'll take the first one, and then maybe we can kind of divvy it up between us. My first question, Congressman, is what inspired you to commit to a lifetime of public service?
Well, I grew up here in Las Vegas. I was born and raised here. My mother came to the United States when she was 12 years old as an immigrant from Trinidad. It was just her and my grandmother. Initially, they went to New York and then made their way out to Las Vegas while my grandmother worked a couple of jobs trying to make ends meet and provide for the family. My mom went to school at Valley. She ultimately got pregnant with me while she was in high school. And at that time, it was a different time and she couldn't stay in school at that time. But why I am involved in public service, it's actually very personal. A block away from where we sit right now at Nevada Partners, my father was shot and killed on the corner of Lake Mead and Ingolstadt when I was 19 years old. I was a freshman in college. And while, my father didn't raise me per se, it was my mom who raised me and my other three siblings. Losing your father to gun violence, senseless gun violence, really did impact me. And I decided at that moment that I didn't want that generational poverty that you talked about at the beginning to continue, or for that cycle of violence to be carried on in my life or in my raising my family. So ultimately, when I had an opportunity in college, I started out as an intern and later got involved in student government. That's where I found my voice. So it's great to see young leaders like Anthony who are, owning their voice in this process, but to really be able to identify with the fact that you can affect change. You don't like something, you want to make things better. Yeah. You can do something about that. And that's what I love about Nevada Partners and the West Las Vegas Promise Neighborhood Initiative.
Thank you so much. And I can definitely relate to growing up here in North Las Vegas and in the West Side. What can people do to get involved in a meaningful way and make a difference here in our community?
Well, first, it is about your personal kind of agency, what you need to do for yourself in order to help other people. Obviously, getting an education is a big part of that as young people, in whatever form that is, apprenticeship, trade school, college, but definitely that post-secondary education is important, especially in the 21st century economy that all of you are growing up in. It's different and it's changing drastically. This podcast never existed, until now, but look how you all are maneuvering the technology and the media space. So that's the opportunity. And then from your own personal space, you can have an effect in your family and creating wealth through housing, through good employment, through entrepreneurship, through passing legacy on. And then you can make an impact in your community by being involved, by voting, by being involved in the democratic process, by being counted in the census, by showing up at events that matter to you, whatever that might be, gun violence or LGBTQ rights or, climate change. And then you can have an effect in our country and our world. And I didn't understand that growing up. I never planned to go to Congress. I never planned to be an elected official. Now, growing up in this neighborhood from the background that I came from, I now serve as the representative from this district in the House of Representatives. That is a phenomenal honor to me, but I'm not the only one. I'm not an exception. And we want others to be able to follow in these positions wherever you may want to be, whether it's in government, whether it's in private sector, whether it's in nonprofits, whether it's in education, whatever it is, we need young people to lead the way.
Absolutely.
Congressman, thank you so much for that. Anthony, I'm going to tee you up for a question here in a second, but I just want to say, I mean, the passion, it really wear it on your sleeve. I mean, I feel it right now. And downstairs, it was just so positively overwhelming to see so many people, young and old, be so passionate about our community.
Yep.
And I just want to say hello to Bernice, who just commented, and I'm so sorry to hear that you also lost your father to gun violence. That is, really what brought you to a lifetime of service. Anthony, you're kind of starting up right now, but you're also so passionate. Thank you for speaking up so much. What's your question?
My question is, like, what's your daily cycle? Like, how do you wake up and then go to sleep every day?
It's a great question, Anthony. My team and my staff, my family definitely, teases me that, I tend to go on fumes. I like to get up early. I've learned to take better care of myself. I've had some health issues in the past. And so now it's very important to me to work out, to get up, do something physical, whether it's walk the dog or do a workout, just something. And then, I check my emails. I got to figure out what the news is, read the clippings to figure out what issues have happened, particularly in the district or in the work that I'm doing in Congress. And then I typically start meetings somewhere between 8 or 9 and go until 8 or 9. And then at the end of the day, we as a family really do try to spend time somewhere in between, either having dinner or having some time as a family to just talk about our day. And whether that's just me or my wife or our kids, we try to incorporate that into our daily routine.
That's great. And you and Dr. Horsford make such an amazing power couple, which is inspiring to see.
I'm a blessed man.
That's for sure.
We really appreciate all of the support that you've given to Nevada Partners and to the community. And one of the things that brought Ella and I together actually was a campaign that we're still working on called Make Homes Possible. And the initiative is focused on closing the Black homeownership gap here in Las Vegas. We'd love for you to share more about why homeownership is so important and why there's even a racial homeownership gap in the first place, and why we need to acknowledge it in order to address it.
Right.
I know that that was like 3 questions.
Right, it's pretty big,
but you can kind of take a crack at that.
Well, first, I serve on the House Committee on Ways and Means, and in that role, I've been appointed as one of the 3 members to lead an initiative on racial equity. And our focus has been on all areas: tax policy, housing policy, healthcare, the economy, trade. And what I've learned actually historically, take for example, when in the 50s and in the 60s, when we passed civil rights legislation, including the Fair Housing Act, unfortunately, some of the protections and the benefits and the programs did not equally get implemented for, at that time, the Black community and now other communities of color. And that is what has created that gap. Now, a house is so important beyond the fact that it houses you from the elements. It is a place where people, create their identity with their family, with their loved ones. And it also is where you create wealth, right? Through equity. And typically, especially in the Black and Latino community, that equity is used to put your kids through college, to start a small business, to invest in some expansion of your house. And so those are things that we are now looking to address, because over time that inequity has grown to the point where, yes, the Black home ownership rate is much lower than our white counterparts. And that means that wealth creation is lower. That means that the ability to take that equity and that wealth and use it for your kids' education or for a small business, that is lower. So it really becomes a systemic problem. And in order to fix it, you have to have systemic and intentional policy to reform it.
Oh my. Well, thank you so much, Congressman, for that answer. And one of our partners in the coalition shares this, and it's the way that she says it, really slaps me in the face every time I hear it. And it is, essentially, white people have had over 400 years of being able to go around the monopoly board, right? Over 400 turns of being just way ahead. And so like we're at a starting point where we're so already far behind. And so, I mean, the disparities just continue stacking on top of each other. But really, I'm grateful that we have leaders like yourself in Congress that are bringing this to the forefront.
And I want to say something specific about that. Equity doesn't mean that means that white family who has that home ownership has to lose it. It's just we have to be intentional about helping those who don't have access to it. Absolutely. Because they can't afford a down payment, because they may, even if they own a home, it may be appraised at a lower amount if you're Black or Latino than if you're white. And so we need to address those issues. Sometimes I think people confuse giving opportunity to Black and Latino people based on systemic issues as taking something away from others. That's not what I am for, or what the majority of us are talking about. And so I think that that's an important message that I want to get out there as well. This is about making all communities strong, all communities thrive. When I grew up here, I graduated from Clark High School. I remember a friend and I used to drive out into the neighborhoods. And when they were building Summerlin, I used to say, why can't we have this in West Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Why can't we have parks like this, schools like this, amenities like this in our community? Because every community should have certain quality of life. And that is what I believe we are working towards with the West Las Vegas Promise Neighborhood, is to talk about what we need. And I've learned, I don't even mean taking all the amenities in Summerlin, because in all actuality, we have great assets. We just need to support them more. We need to support the West Las Vegas Arts Center. We need to support the programs that are available in our community. We just need to build on them and make them stronger, and then address the areas where there are weaknesses.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. Very busy man. Maybe Ella and Anthony, if you want to wrap us up with one more question, and then send Congressman back home to his family.
Absolutely. Congressman, thank you again for your service and your commitment, and just thank you.
No, thank you, Ella. You all don't have to thank me. I'm doing what I love to do and what you all put me in office to do, and that's to represent our community, our district, and to bring voice to this process. This gives me joy to be able to sit across from Anthony, to see this young man, to hear him speak during the panel earlier. This is what it's all about. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on your success and what you're doing. And I expect great things from you. And my only ask is, as you grow, never forget where you come from, and to come back and to pass that on to somebody. Somebody gave me a chance, and that's the only reason why I'm where I'm at today. And then when you get that opportunity, you need to just pass that forward to someone else. All right?
Yes, I definitely will. I'm extremely humble and grateful to even have this opportunity. Like Miss Garcia giving me a chance. Like, she doesn't know anything about me, and she decided to be like, come on in, you're part of the family. And like the whole Nevada Partners really does a lot, because what they help me with, and lies, you guys really have so much faith in me, and it's incredible, because you do not know anything anything of my background, anything of what happened. You just accepted me with open arms and no questions about it. And I was I'm just really appreciated for Nevada Partners and for everybody.
We love you, man. We love you. And that's Ella and everybody. That's the Nevada Partner spirit.
And we're so proud of you. Don't never let your shine dim any. not even a little bit. You keep shining. And like we said earlier, get 1% better every day.
All right.
That's amazing. Couldn't end it any better than that. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.